Welcome, welcome, welcome. We welcome you to the Metropolitan Community Church of Washington, D.C. This is Abilly's home church, and we are here today to remember, to love, to celebrate. This building, in fact, reflects some of the values of Abilly's life. The sense of openness that you see with the windows, these strong walls that protect. The people who come to this place are people who live the truth of who we are invited to be as God's people, standing for equality, diversity, equity, justice, a place where it's okay to say those things.
Amen. And diversity.
Yes, that's right. So my name's Dwayne Johnson, the senior pastor.
And my name is Kathy Alexander. I'm the associate pastor.
And we, again, are just thrilled to have you with us here today as we share the stories, as we share the love. One thing we'd mention is the service is being live streamed. So if you do need to step out during the service, we invite you to go down the side aisles, either side. Otherwise, you're going to be making an international debut on live stream, and it may not be your best angle. So we do invite you again to enjoy this service, to spend time today just remembering a wonderful, powerful life that impacted so many individuals and communities.
Absolutely. And remember, when Abilly was on this plane and when he was in this service, he would sit right there.
Yes.
Every time. And so I believe his spirit is in this place with us. So have a memory and have a thought of him in the pictures and in the videos that you'll see, in the stories that you'll hear. And I invite you to just center yourself at this moment. Take a breath. Whatever is on your mind and on your heart that might be holding you back from experiencing this time, I invite you to just leave it so that you are fully here and fully present, and that we're here together in this space so that we can experience one another and celebrate the life of Abilly. Amen?
Amen.
Ashe, and so it is.
And so it is. And did you notice the sun just came into this space? The light. You are the light today. Abilly is the light. And now all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, let us welcome Duncan Teague, Reverend Duncan Teague. Welcome.
Yeah. I picked the best picture of Billy that I liked, and I'll stand here. How about that? Wow. I am more than honored to be here. First, giving honor to the power of creation. That is so magnificent that that power can bring us together at a moment like this. I'm honored that this amazing family has called me, asked me to do this. I hope I was helpful to Chris and to the people who are doing this magnificent honor. It's somebody who is pretty magnificent. I bring you greetings from Abundant Love Unitarian Universalist, all the way from the West End community of Atlanta. Be careful of accepting your calling, because it might send you right to your home. If it's all right, and I think it is since I'm the officiant. Yeah, I learned some things from Billy. That we open by just saying some thank yous to the Spirit of life, our higher power, however you choose to envision that. So if you'll take a posture of prayer, I won't ask you to stand, but we'll begin there. Gracious One, most of us come happy. Most of us came real happy, and we're grateful for that we knew Abilly S.Jones, Hennin. Some of us are coming really upset because we want Billy back. Some of us are just trying to figure out how we got in this room right now. We thank you for whatever it took to bring us together right now and for those amazing opportunities to be with such a wonderful and powerful person, Billy. We thank you for this community of MCC that's been doing phenomenal work right here in our capital, where we most need it these days. We thank you for the welcome, for the greeting, for the food, for the people who've hugged us when we were upset. And Spirit, we ask that you forgive us if in our grief we've done or said something stupid, or we've gotten in the way of the love that really pervades this space today. Because we didn't mean it. We don't know what we're doing. We also asked humbly for the strength and the patience to be for this family, for the close friends, for former co-workers, former activists, writers, artists, that we be for each other what Billy was for us: strong, intentional, ethical, wise, loving, loving. And in this moment that we honor him in the best way we can and have a good time doing it. Thank you so much. In the name of all those that you sent to try and show us the way back to you, and forgive us for what we keep doing to those messengers. Amen. Ashe. And so may it be. See, I'm not as Baptist as I used to be. This amazing choir is going to give us a number by Hollinier singing For Our Lives. Following that, there's a film tribute. I believe, Avi put that together. So we'll proceed.
Straight together.
We are queer and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are queer and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
We're a justice-seeking people.
We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Marching in unity together.
marching in unity together, and we are singing, singing for our lives, marching in unity together, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
We're gentle, angry people.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Hello, everyone. My name's Avi Silver, and I am, I think, Billy's youngest child. Yeah, I think that tracks. Okay. When Billy passed last year, my first thought was that I was going to miss his laughter, which is why in the slideshow you saw when you came in, one of the first things I did is I went through all the footage of these. I did these interviews for a project in college, and also, again, for when my sister's baby was born for a baby shower. I found some clips of him laughing, and I sent it to everyone I knew so that we could all hear his laughter again, because it was so iconic. But the second thing is I asked my other dad, Chris, whether or not Billy had ever finished his memoir. And we looked on, I was their computer tech person, so I went through the computers looking to see if there was a document. And eventually we found a folder of materials, but otherwise there wasn't. He'd always talked about wanting to make a memoir, wanting to document the things. And the other part of it was I realized that I knew very little. I knew that he had done a lot of amazing work, but I didn't know the details. So with the help of Chris, my father, Susan, one of my mothers, and a few helpers, other people, Maxine Fuller, we spent the last 11 months recording interviews with different people that knew Billy over the years in order to help fill in some of those gaps, not just for me, but for anyone else who were wanting to figure out how to follow those steps. And I have a big spreadsheet where I have I'm a teacher, I'm a scientist, where I documented these little moments and from each piece of footage. And as I watched these interviews, I learned so much about all of these family friends that I'd known since I was a kid, but how I knew them was them saying, "Oh, I knew you when you were a baby," and so I didn't know how important they were in his life and in these different steps. And now it's so cool getting to see those pieces. So while I do have enough material to cover his entire life, from birth until passing, what you're going to see today is what I've edited so far, which covers 3 years. It's half an hour in 3 years, from 1976 to 1979. And I want to give a shout out to Gil Gerald, who's here, and you'll see a skit he's going to do later, because he's putting together a memoir that should be out in the next year or two that covers that same time period. And so if you are interested in learning more about what happened and going deeper, as I certainly am now, keep an eye out for that. Part of the reason I'm focusing on those 3 years is it really encapsulates this quote that was from an interview I did of Billy himself in college, but that I didn't get to include in the documentary today, where he says, "I'm the type of person that if I see that there's a part of me missing that doesn't have a voice, then I tend to try to figure out how to make that happen in as non-threatening way as possible." And especially today, where we have nonstop, where there's questioning as to why inclusion is necessary, why representation matters. Billy's work for 40 years plus exemplified that. And it was such a core piece of it. And I hope you get to take away from this 30-minute piece that. Because I guess I can say that after. The work continued, but I'll let you take a look.
I have been very fortunate in my life. Fortunate to have very good friends, fortunate to have a very supportive family, lots of good friends. I was fortunate to have an incredible mentor in terms of Dr. Lorraine Hutchins. My friend and I went to Columbia, Maryland from California. I had accepted a big job in Washington, D.C. with a youth program. And was there as a council sergeant, special approaches to juvenile system. And that program had a number of day youth involved. It had some, a couple that were affiliated with John's Hopkins gender assignment program with John Mooney. So as a counselor, I became involved with supporting the youth.
The youth programs that Billy and I worked on were built. And so, of course, when it became clear that the white people dominating the staff and the board of the youth organization called Special Approaches and Juvenile Assistance, or Runaway House, when it became clear that it was hypocritical for us white people to try to run these programs without making them more integrated, Billy was key to finding a compassionate, friendly, and principled way to facilitate integration of people with very different needs and experiences into a community that was more a combination and less monolithic.
He talked about an article in Ebony magazine that he was thinking about writing because he found something that they had said in the article that was very homophobic, and he wanted to challenge Ebony magazine on that point. And he signed that letter as coming from him as the National Coalition of Black Gays at that point. And we did some talking over time, and eventually he asked me to work with him to start such an organization because he had made up the name for the purpose of that letter, but there was no such organization in existence.
I met a woman at that time that worked at Ramsey Rouse bookstore. Not the name, but it was with her assistant and input that we figured out how to good job. Yeah. So the first meeting everyone throughout the area happened at Sergeant, which is located on the 18th band of that area. We had a couple meetings there, and we foremost decided that yes, there wasn't a need for a gay political organization that was clearly Black identified. And we placed some flyers all over the city, not all over the city, but places that we did the Blacks in the capital, particularly to one circle. Told people that were in our little Black book, and continued to have meetings for about 3 months at Sergeant. And then persons started offering their homes last city.
I remember that one of the things that we did early on was to take part in the mayor's race. Actually, it was the first time that Barry ran as a counselor, and the D.C. coalition did not endorse him. They endorsed Sterling Tucker, which got Barry a little messed with us, but it also got his attention that maybe he should pay attention to us.
There was an election going on in 1978. It was the first under the Home Rule Act, in which the District of Columbia would elect its mayor and the city council, and continue to elect the city council, but for the first time elect its own mayor. The mayor would not ever again be appointed by the President of the United States. And I really felt that there was a lot of press coverage about the gay influence in that election, and how it was a powerful political community that was coming into being. But when you saw the reports and you got a sense of it being a very white-based movement in the city, gay political power was really strongly associated with white gay men. And I thought there was a problem with that picture, because at that time, 75% of the population of the District of Columbia was Black. And there needed to be, and there should be, and where were all the Black LGBT individuals? And so when I saw the announcements that Billy had placed in the Washington Blade, I decided I would go to one of the meetings, and I met Billy, and I was fateful. That changed the entire trajectory of my life, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. I moved increasingly away from architecture, which was a passion that I had since I was a kid of 6 years old. So I was really impressed with Billy. I literally thought, my goodness, this is Robin Hood. This is my Che Guevara. I mean, he really impressed me as somebody who I could relate to what he was saying about need to organize Black LGBT individuals and in the district of in the region, actually. But I was coming very much from a political perspective, which is we need to have a voice that is very visible. What's insignificant is that the Washington Blade, which was the leading newspaper for the LGBT community in the District of Columbia and nationally, for the first time had 3 articles, that were like the front page articles. Black gays endorse Sterling Tucker, and that was amazing, because and consequential, because for the first time, there was like this shocking news for everybody. People wanted to know, well, why are you organizing differently, separately? There was a shock that people would come out, and also and confront the racism in the LGBT community. So I think it was significant, because if you go through the Blade, Washington Blade of that period of time, you don't see articles. You don't see other articles or stories, or very few stories, except for maybe some entertainer coming to town, or you didn't see stories about Black LGBT individuals. And so we were not visible in the press. You would assume that everybody who was gay was white.
Here now are some of the highlights of the discussion on gay political organizations and the Black gay community. Let's listen first to Billy Jones, one of the founders of the Black Coalition, as he outlines the coalition's concerns.
The coalition has assessed, in terms of gay organization, that there is a need for inclusion of Black gays at inception stages. By this we mean that often many organizations will reach out or do what they call a Black outreach once the organization itself has been established, or once a project has been conceived and all the groundwork and the ideology and the philosophy has been determined, and then it appears to be an attitude of come and help us. And we are feeling that if there is a sincerity there in terms of having Blacks as a part of existing gay organizations that there's a need to include black gays at the very beginning of projects. We also feel that there's a tendency to project these organizations as spokesperson or leadership of the total gay community. And often what is missing is input from black gays and Hispanic gays. And we feel that there's a need for some sensitivity in that particular area. We also feel that a common perception of the gay movement itself is that the gay movement has been projected as a white movement, and you will often hear a significant number of black non-gays feeling that the gay movement itself is a white movement, and essentially when we acknowledge that that is not true, we also have to face the fact that the gay movement itself is certainly projected currently as a white movement. We also feel that there's a great deal of pressure or push for blacks to join existing white gay organizations. And we feel that there needs to be a reciprocal effort, that there needs to be just as much of an effort for non-blacks to participate in black gay organizations as there is the push for blacks to participate and to join non-black organizations.
Now, you have been a part of 5 delegations to the White House.
Yes.
As someone who is LGBT.
Yeah.
Going back to, was it 1980 with President Carter?
Yes, the Carter administration.
Yeah, would you be willing just to talk about what that's been like over the years and any kind of changes that you've seen, you know, with presidents and communities?
Well, I think the first White House experience I had was with the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays, which organized a delegation of people of color. So it was a delegation of African Americans, of Latino community, Asian, Native American, Indian. And that was because we felt left out of a meeting that the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force at the time had. And not that they had some African Americans part of their delegate, but the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays felt that we had been pushed to the side, not respected enough to be invited to send a representative from our organization. So we said, oh, the hell with it, we'll do our own.
We were meeting at your apartment to plan the Third World Conference. That same year, we also had a reaction to the fact that the National Gay and Lesbian, Jimmy Carter was in the office, and NGLTF had a gathering at the White House, a meeting with the White House, and we felt that we were not fully represented in that meeting. At least Billy was more informed than we were, but the sense was that we would have our own meeting with the White House. And so significantly, you know, we met within a year. We did this White House meeting, and we were also planning the Third World Conference.
Gay leaders within gay organizations were not addressing concerns of gay people of color, and were not invited to participate at important events.
This had fallen on the heels of the Carter administration meeting with mostly or almost exclusively white gays, right?
That's correct. And so what we said is, you know, we need to have our own meeting. And again, what the coalition took the leadership of pulling it together and organizing. But what we did do is that we made sure we had a representative with us from the Native American community, Hispanic, and Asian community. So it was one of the things we were always committed to do, is to make sure we really did reflect some diversity there. We never felt threatened by bringing other folks along with us. mean, we could have very easily just said we're just going to have a meeting of black gays, but it just happened that those of us who were at the forefront at that time didn't think in that way.
Billy was involved in the National March on Washington, the organizing of that march, and he had been involved with the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, as it was called, also, and so he had some experience that none of us had. So he was kind of our leader. And he engaged us as volunteers.
And so we would show up at wherever Billy was and get our marching orders for, what he needed us to do. And it was quite wonderful. We felt like we were in at the beginning, and he was everywhere. It was so funny. It was the kind of march. There was not corporate sponsors, and there wasn't a lot of cash for capital or even contracts, or, it was very, very, very much the beginning of a thing. Nobody had tried this before.
I remember hanging out with Billy around at the offices organizing the 1979 very first march for gay rights on Washington, D.C. And Billy was a part of the staff organizing that, and organized the Third World Conference partly out of that same weekend or week of experiences. And it really made the march more powerful and more integrated than it would have been.
As part of that meeting and that planning with the National March on Washington, he got them to support the idea of having a Third World Conference as a way of bringing together, meeting a goal of a certain amount of participation of people of color within this march, because the movement itself didn't seem to be equipped to gather people of color.
It was an opportunity for us to reach out, network with, and pull together lesbian, gays, and bisexual and transgender from the diversity of our community. And I don't think the March on Washington by itself would have been able to do it to the extent that the Third World Lesbian and Gay Conference did in that same year, which also helped to make the overall march as diverse as it was. Because what you had is people from communities of color coming from multiple events and multiple activities. So we actually, at that conference, we were able to attract 300 folks.
So Billy engaged us, and we were meeting in your apartment on in Adams Morgan. I guess it's Adams Morgan. We were meeting at your apartment to plan the Third World Conference.
One of the things that I had a little bit of influence on was the Third World Conference.
Yes.
Because I felt like, okay, this was great that he was representing the Black World Conference, but that in reality there were every other ethnicity that was still on the sidelines.
Yes.
And that the gay part of the spectrum is global.
Yeah.
The National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays with 3 whole chapters at that time, right? And we weren't that well known. Most people didn't know us. So we were promoting ourselves and trying to tell people and try to pull it off that we're really together and solid. And at the same time, pull together this conference. But one of the things that we wanted to happen was that each of the ethnic groups of color would also form a national body. And that did happen. It got, and I think we did a very good job around how we structured the conferences so that there were general sessions in which we all came together, but also caucus space time and, time for women to get together. And it just worked, And then, of course, several other people of color, we call the first one the Third World Lesbian Gay Conference, and then all the ones that followed after that were called People of Color Conferences. So I guess we merged some. But the ones that followed after that, interestingly, followed the same format of having conference space for that women could get together, youth could get together, but also some culture-specific autonomous space as well as general sessions that everybody could get together.
There really were people from all over the world. It quickly just became the international conference. And it was the first international conference for lesbians and gays that had ever happened. So we made history in that event.
It set a pattern that we continued with conferences for the rest of the existence of NCBLG. It had a cultural component, so it had performers. It had showcasing Black LGBT talent. We had Dolores sang, produced, sang a gospel. We had Blackberry, we had Salsa Soul Sisters, and they provided drumming, and it was just really exciting to begin to do something that we did throughout all the years that we were NCBLG. When we had conferences, we had a cultural component, but we also had workshops, and the workshops were workshops that dealt with issues of feminism, issues of racism. It also brought together, it also encouraged people from other communities other than Black LGBT, like Latinos and Native Americans and Asian Pacific Islanders were present in this, and were very much encouraged to go back home and to continue or build on their own organizing as people of color. That was significant. We also became connected with one another in ways that we had not been connected. None of us knew Audre Lorde, for example. And we suddenly made a connection with somebody, and she was the keynoter at the conference. And we became connected with people like the women of Kitchen Table Press, Barbara Smith and Cherry Moraga and others, as a consequence of planning this conference and having all of these individuals who were accomplished in their own right in terms of speaking to the issues of people of color and LGBT, the experience of LGBT individuals in this country who are people of color.
I mean, I was with Billy in 1979 at the Third World Conference on lesbian, gay people of color. And I attended a lot of those meetings at Harambe House.
It was held at a romping house at that time, which was a hotel that was part of Howard University program. That was a program where if you were studying hotel management, then they would internship there. So bookstore. So that was very successful in that we Audre Lorde for the speaker.
I heard Audre Lorde speak.
And I had the great pleasure of introducing Audre to the conference. And it was indeed an international event.
30 years ago, the first time I came to Washington, my family and I couldn't eat ice cream in a drugstore here because we were Black. Now, since then, I have come to Washington many times to demonstrate and to testify to different aspects of myself and my beliefs. And I see many familiar faces from those past marches here today. For lesbians and gay men have always been in the vanguard of struggles for liberation and justice in this country and within our communities. The first national conference of third world lesbians and gay men met in Washington over the past 4 days, and it was an outstanding success. We had third world lesbians and gay men as delegates from over 40 states, third world lesbians and gay men from Mexico, from Canada, and from England. Now, we have all come together to demonstrate our power as lesbians and gay men in behalf of our own rights. And this is the beginning of a new front, for we are saying to the world that the struggle of lesbians and gay men is a real and particular and inseparable part of the struggle of all oppressed people within this country. I am proud to raise my voice here this day as a Black, lesbian, feminist, committed to struggle for a world where all our children can grow free from the diseases of racism, of sexism, of classism, and of homophobia. For those oppressions are inseparable. The question always is, what kind of a world do we want to be a part of? And affirmation and work does not stop with this march on Washington. Each of us has a responsibility to take this struggle back to her and his community, translated into daily action. The National Conference of Third World Lesbians and Gay Men and this march today were once only visions of what could be. Now all of us have made it our reality. Let us carry this solidarity that we are professing here today back with us into our everyday lives, tomorrow and the day after and next week and next year. And let it be reflected in a renewed commitment to struggle for a future where we can all flourish, for not one of us will ever be free until we are all free.
I don't know if you've heard him tell the story of he didn't hear Audre Lorde speak because he had fallen asleep in a corner on the floor when she started speaking. You know, he was just pushing himself beyond what a human being can push themselves. And I loved him for it.
When the conference ended that Sunday, without being planned, it spontaneously just decided that we were going to march down Georgia Avenue until we got and connect with these other marchers that were already on the mall, on the Neon Mall. And it just popped up as an idea on Saturday. There we were with our banner, carrying on the Washington Street, and we were going because we went to John 7. We went to the Black community and next time the Black community and the Asian community right on balance. And I must say that the reception of those was, well, they clapped. Nobody threw anything at us. We were so charged up. That's what we decided. And off we went. But we were well received. And then when we got to the mall, we were well received because here we were, we had a strong vote fellow. So that was the high. I think Audre Lorde's yes to the conference and the spontaneous march down Georgia were the highs of that.
So that's what I've got so far. But as I said, we have probably about 30 hours more of footage that I'm still kind of working through. I've watched it all and I've taken notes, but figuring out how to piece it together. But I did want to say that, as Billy moved through his life, in all the spaces that he stood, he tried to find ways to bring people into the fold and to work for the rights of each community, whether it was for inmates or for people living with HIV/AIDS, people living with disabilities, bisexuals. At every as he moved through each of these circles, he continued to kind of point out inequities and trying to find ways to make things better for everyone. And as a fellow workaholic who is hyperactive, it was interesting going through this process and this learning and realizing some of the things we have in common of not stopping, even when it means that we're not necessarily seeing the people we love and care about on the side at the times that maybe we should. So I feel like the thing I took away was that his life was a love letter to activism. And so that's why I wanted to name it that. If you have things that you want to share, because it was only 29 hours of people sharing, I'm sure there's more. So feel free to reach out if you have words to share to this growing project. Similarly, I'm a novice documentarian. If you'd like to lend any help or services, I love collaboration. So, yeah.
It's not in the program. I'm not going to prolong it. But if you were at that conference or that march, could you please stand? Because our honoring Billy is also about those of us who are still here. Hi, Daryl. We're going to continue with some more fabulous music by the choir. There was supposed to be an announcement about your cell phones. Mostly what I see are adults who are probably addicted to them. Do not turn them off. Mute them. You know what the mute button is. But take pictures, because I didn't dress like this for nothing. And tell your friends that you're honoring one of the greatest black gay activists, bisexual activists there ever was. And put it on social media like you don't like the chicken. You know what I mean? Y'all have pictures of every meal you didn't like. Tell your friends where you are, and tell them you're at MCC in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Of course.
Did not come this far to give up now, like days of old, freedom cloud. I had this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now. I dreamed I saw Thelma Hopkins last night. I said you died long ago. Then she said, no, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to know. She said I saw Bree Newsom climbing up that flagpole. She took that thing down, that slavery flag would not fly. And as long as folks have courage like that, I will never die. And we did not come this far to give up now, like days of old, freedom cloud. I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now.
I dreamed I saw Pete Seeger last night. I said you died long ago. And he said, no, senor, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to know. I saw los Puerto Ricanos protesting. They held a general strike and they kicked that governor out. As long as folks have courage like that, and I'll be singing in the crowd.
We did not come this far to give up now. From days of old, freedom. And I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now.
Dr. King last night. I said you died long ago. Then he said, no, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to know. I see a new poor people's campaign, mending what's broken to finish what we began. And as long as folks have courage like that, the world will understand.
We did not come this far to give up now. Like days of old behind the freedom plow. I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now.
I dreamed I saw Abilly last night. I thought you'd left us last year. Then he said, no, I ain't dead. I came back 'cause I need you to hear. I see that Stonewall Nation rising with courage and standing up to their lies. And as long as folks have courage like that, we'll keep our eyes on the prize. And we did not come this far to give up now. Like days of old behind the freedom plow. I have this faith deep in my heart somehow. We did not come this far to give up now.
I'm so very glad to be here to celebrate the life and legacy of the man I knew as Billy. It's good to see a number of you that go back years with the movement expanded by Billy to include LGBT people of color. You were all part of my life when I moved west in 1989. It is also good to be in my old neighborhood. We called this area Downtown Shaw when I was president of the Neighborhood Association. It is also great to be in this church facility. During the years 1979 through 1981, I served on the board of MCC DC. Also earlier in 1976, I was in the same membership class as the Reverend Elder Darlene Garner, who, as you may know, was a co-founder of the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays. Without reservation, I'm proud to be able to affirm before you today, at age 74, that except for either of my parents and other elders in my family of birth, No one has had more impact on the course of my life than Abilly S.Jones Hennin. This is true particularly for my post-college life. Meeting him was a cosmic orbit event, a changing collision of planets that put me in a new positive and consequential direction in my life. My first encounter with Billy on one early evening in the spring of 1978, when I was 27 years old, would eventually result in my abandoning the dream of a lifetime career in architecture. From that point, I joined the cause of advancing the status of Black LGBTQ folk within what was then called the gay rights movement. I joined in the pursuit of improving the visibility of status of gay, same-gender loving LGBTQ people of color within our own communities, then and now, and particularly because of my Panamanian birth, I personally define the Black community as the broad African diaspora with a history of ancestry that includes forced passage to the Americas, North, Central, and South, including the Caribbean, via the cross-Atlantic slave trade. We are all brothers and sisters. Billy, who had a Caribbean roots, like I do, was in many ways family to me. It was at a meeting in the spring of 1978 announced by him in the local gay press that I first met him and heard him try out what became NCBLG's first motto, as proud of our gayness as we are of our Blackness. That got my attention and resounded positively in my guts as we repeated it through 1984 when we changed our byline. It was our elevator speech, attention grabber. It worked. As Black gays, we were whole, not one or the other. The motto was grasping at intersectionality, a word that we use today with a great degree of frequency, which is and so important. Billy, a bisexual like many of us who identified as gay or lesbian, experienced unfairness and spoke eloquently about discrimination from standpoints of race, gender, sexual orientation, and sexual expression. Billy was an innovator, an articulator of innovation. Not to be discounted in many ways, in any way, it is true that Billy, as I have always called him, on November 29th, 1980, 2 days after my 30th birthday, just 2.5 years after my first meeting him, invited me to be family with him and Chris Hennin. I've never disclosed this publicly before. This fact already is captured in an almost complete memoir I am writing. He was a lover, and he is and was loved. Even though the expression of our love for one another, that is Chris, Billy, and I, changed over time, the love will always be a central and meaningful part of the story of my life. We found each other in a culture that discounts non-traditional families, in this case, polyamory. I'm filled with treasured memories because we frankly did what was unspeakable in the world in which I grew up. Yet it was so natural for us. I have Billy especially to thank for this experience. He made the first move that day in 1980. I am not alone among the many that Billy touched and motivated into activism in 1978. There are 6 individuals who formed the initial leadership of the National Coalition of Black Gays. It was formally established in convention on November 29, 1980. In 1984, the name was changed to the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays, NCBLG. The 7 of us functioned as leaders from roughly the spring of 1978 through the fall of 1980. The original leadership group met roughly 15 years ago in this very building to strategize on how to preserve NCBLG history. Starting with and you're looking at the slides, I hope it's the right one, I'm sure it is. Starting with the rear row, to the left is Reverend Renee McCoy, followed by the late Abilly S.Jones, Hennin, and Reverend Elder Darlene Garner. I'm on the far left in the front row, and next to me are Lou Hughes, followed by the late John G., and then the late Reverend Dolores Berry. A historical fact I find interesting is that all of us were or became members of Metropolitan Community Church, starting either in Baltimore, DC, or the Detroit congregation. In my memoir, I quote Darlene, who spoke for me and others when she said to me when I interviewed her, the idea of NCBG was particularly appealing because it allowed me to claim and interweave my gayness as well as my blackness. Similarly, the Reverend Dolores Berry, a passenger in the car with other fellow NCBLG founders from Baltimore on the way to our meeting at the White House, in 1978, humorously captured our group's spirit with her quip, "We're flying on a wing and a prayer," after a bird hit and got splattered on the windshield. Billy displayed great initiative, enthusiasm, and spirit as he inspired and recruited us, and many others through his methodical passing out and posting of flyers in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. These notices invited and urged the formation of a Black gay organization in the region. He also placed notices in the Washington Blade and Out magazine, a social and entertainment-focused periodical. In the Black community, there was a significant positive response locally and beyond DC. We were all ripe for this. Development in movement organizations. It was also tough going through this process. However, Billy was a great motivator. In my case, I was incredulous that in DC, with a population of 75% Black folk, the face of the LGBT community mobilized for political impact, at least in the press, including our own community press, was the face of a white male. 1978 was an important election year for several reasons, too numerous to mention today. One key historical development was the fact that it would be the first election in DC in which the citizens of the city elected its own mayor. The relative invisibility of Black people in the Washington Blade, except for the most part in ads and announcements related to entertainment, took a welcome turn for the better in August 1978. Two leading front page stories had subheadings under one top headline that read, "Black gays endorse Tucker." He was one of two leading candidates for mayor in a district primary. It would be likely the difficult, at that time, to find any statement in the press anywhere in the US before these articles appeared on the front page and uttered such important information that there was such thing as a Black gay constituency that involved women and men and transgender individuals. The movement work Billy led in 1978 changed the political dynamic in DC. In 1982, 4 years later, the Barrier Election Campaign, among other political campaigns, openly recognized the Black gay community as a constituency to be courted. The campaign flyers printed and distributed to by the Barry campaign, as well as the composition of volunteer campaign committees, evidenced the change. Although there is clearly a real backlash underway in the US, we've evolved further on the national stage. such that, in fact, we have not only Black LGBT constituencies to be courted, but Black openly LGBT office holders in government across the country. This is true in cities, in counties, in state houses, and in the US Congress. Historical renditions of the early moves of mobilizing Black LGBTQ politically must recognize that Billy led in DC in 1978. The team that Billy recruited and led to work closely with him achieved important milestones. The spring of 1978 and November 1980, when the organization handed the leadership to a new board elected by chapter representatives from around the country, Billy's leadership and work must be credited with the following. 1, local organizations and chapters in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, New York, Minneapolis, and in the Tidewater area of Virginia. And that was just starting in 1980. It grew beyond that. At a meeting, number 2, Billy must be credited, at a meeting was held with the White House staff, bringing attention to numerous concerns of people of color in the LGBTQ+ community. I was not yet a US citizen, and I was fighting for my naturalization as an openly gay man. He charged me with speaking about the issues of immigration and naturalization at the White House meeting. Immigration is a big issue today. But sometimes we forget that in the 1970s, even gay Europeans, people from the Netherlands, were being intercepted at US airports, even if just visitors, and sent back to their home countries. This was true when Billy was organizing us. Here on the slide, Billy and I were going over notes in Lafayette Square before heading to the White House gates for the meeting. Number 3, through Billy's work in 1979 within the planning efforts of the first ever National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights, NCBG received the support of the march organizers to plan and host the first national conference of third world lesbians and gays as part of the activities to be associated with the march. This was in great part a strategy for engaging people of color in the march itself. During the planning phase, Billy served as the DC logistics coordinator for the '79 march and also represented the Mid-Atlantic region in the march planning effort. He went to those conferences around the country where people gathered to decide on the next step, bringing people to Washington. Before he passed away a few years ago, I interviewed the Chicago community member activist Max Smith. He shared with me his journey to DC to participate in the demonstration. He made it clear that his main motivation for getting into a carpool of strangers and heading to DC was his desire to attend the Third World Conference. Ron Simmons, of Us Helping Us fame, we know his name here in Washington, D.C. Many of you may know him or have known him, was similarly impressed in '79, except that he also decided that D.C. was where he wanted to be permanently instead of Atlanta, which was also where he was considering going in order to continue his higher education. 4, Billy's team, the 6 of us, and additional volunteers, such as Michelle Parkinson, and I think I spotted Michelle in the back of the room, and other members of the soon-to-merge Sapphire Sapphos, worked tirelessly and made this landmark event a resounding success. Community response to Billy's initiative was consequential, and in 1979, the 400 who participated, I counted 400, but we'll straighten it out at some point in history. In the workshops, plenaries that weekend was significant. 5, in planning and carrying out this conference in 1979, NCBG, through Billy's leadership and initiative, inspired groups of people of color to continue to organize and to even start organizations in our own communities to better engage and mobilize ourselves to address needs and issues from an intersectional perspective. Roland Palencia, an immigrant at the time, a new immigrant who just passed across the border, across the Mexican border, had come from Guatemala with three sibling brothers. His father had been assassinated, and he settled here in the United States, came to the conference and decided these people, the people who organized this conference, we need to emulate them in the Latino community. And so GLUE, Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos, was formed in the Los Angeles area. And Gay and Lesbian Latinos Unidos have a film that has been developed that is airing around the country about GLUE and its origin. Well, he basically informed me when I interviewed him for my memoir, Gil, we were impressed by what you all did in Washington, D.C. This is what Billy led that and had an impact not on the Latino community, but on the Asian Pacific Islander community, as well as on the Native American community. The event had cultural impact. Not only did we have the performers that you saw, Blackberry and so forth, we had Native Americans who participated in the cultural aspects, as well as a constituency of people of color. In convening to formally establish, number 6, establish and found the organization, NCBG established a structure that, among other successes, produced a nationally distributed newsletter, first called Habari Habari, edited by Kish Cawthon in Chicago, a Chicago-based volunteer who served in that city as NCBLG's first executive director. Habari Habari in later years would morph into Habari Daftari, and then Blackout magazine, which was edited by Joseph Beam, the writer, author, who produced the first ever anthology of black gay men in the universe. He was our editor of the newsletter that was produced by the organization. And when he passed away, the editing responsibilities flowed to Angela Bowen, who is celebrated also in literature. Our one measure of organizing success is to what extent does an organization survive the founding charismatic leader through leadership change and renewal. Billy nurtured us, those he recruited, including myself and the Reverend Renee McCoy. We took turns at being executive directors, carrying forth the mission of NCBLG for practically a decade, beyond its formal founding in 1980. Among the roster of its board members and local chapter leaders and volunteer staff, over the years, you will find the names such as Michelle Parkinson. And I'm so glad that you're here, Michelle. Ray Melrose, Tammy Carnes, a self-identified trans person. You know, the visibility of trans persons has been something that's been recently, you know, and also under great attack now. Audre Lorde and many more were also individuals that served on our board and that were really part of what happened as a course and as a result of Billy's work. Billy's organization, his baby, so to speak, would one day produce the first ever national conference on AIDS in the black community in the United States, and would serve as a venue showcasing black LGBTQ culture and talent through 2 additional third world conferences and 2 additional national conferences of the organization. Before closing, I would like to personally open up, possibly, maybe Michelle would like to join me up here, if possibly. No, it's okay. Thank you, Michelle. but there'll be an opportunity, I think, for people to possibly express. It's one of the difficult things right now is being one of the survivors. I was one of the youngest in this organization when we started. I was sort of the baby kind of a guy. And the memoir, writing it, has been a challenge because of that. Our movement for fairness and equality under law, as well as our growth in pride and showcasing of talent, owes so much to Billy Jones. Much more can't be summed up in such a more short message as on any day. May he rejoice with the ancestors for a well-lived life, and may we meet the challenges of our time. Thank you.
We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight seas, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Some children grow up strong and bold, while others are quiet and kind.
Some race on ahead, some take it slow, some go in their own way and time.
Some women love women, some men love men, some leave every label behind. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible you'll find. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whoever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. Will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think we can do a little better. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Forestella Peaches Jones Taylor. I am Billy Jones's daughter. And yes, I said Forestella. That would be F-O, 2 R's, E-S-T-E-L-L-A. And I spell that out because my dad loves doing the most. And so, as I am here today, and it is an honor to be here from Atlanta, Georgia, although I am originally from New Jersey and a whole lot of places. I think my father had me, between my father and my mother, we lived in California, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Delaware, New Jersey. I'm skipping one, born in Virginia, but my dad was a man that was from everywhere. And if you truly knew who my father was, he was life. Whatever room he walked in, that's when the party began. So, yeah, go ahead and clap about that. And so, as I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm saying, yep, that was him, and yep, that was him, and yep, he did all that, I need y'all to know he was just my daddy. Right? So, yeah, you can clap on that. And so a lot of things were happening in my childhood in the backdrop, but I am blessed to be able to tell you, me and my siblings had wonderful memories as his children. And even though, because my dad was a workaholic, right? And I think somebody said that very clear. He was a it tripped me out. He actually fell asleep during that. Yeah, that sounds like him. My dad was indeed a workaholic. It was the best part of him, if you were on that side of it. But oftentimes it meant that he wasn't as present in our home as he possibly could. He made a lot of sacrifices to make things happen because that's who he was. And if you were here a year ago when I stood before many of you all, and I'm not gonna even pontificate on that again, we all know that my daddy was the man that wanted to have his cake and eat it too. And so you either knew that's who he was and you loved it, or you made other choices and said, I just can't get with it. I, as his daughter, just chose, that is my dad. He will always be my daddy, and I loved all of it. That was it. I loved all of it. I am proud to be his daughter. I am proud to stand before you on behalf of my older sister, Valerie, and my younger brother, TJ, who could not be with us here. We did fly in with his favorite son-in-law, his only son-in-law, y'all. And my youngest baby, Nia, who actually is here studying at Howard University, like her mom. But as I am standing here in a very joyous state, I have not been sad since my daddy passed, not at all. And I know that is difficult for many to embrace, but for me, because he was my daddy, and because he was such filled with life, if you knew him towards the end of his life and the challenges, he wasn't living life the way he liked to live, right? My daddy would walk in the room and just dance with whatever beat was happening. That was daddy. He didn't care where he did it either. I want you to know that. And the more inappropriate my dad would act, and you would tell him, it would only escalate it to go a little bit further. So I want to spend these few moments, and it will be very brief because I know that several of you all have your own stories. The first thing I want to do is talk about the things that my daddy loved. Can we do that for a moment? Because I want to fill this space with joy and laughter, because that's what he would want today. He wouldn't want somber. He would literally be leaning over to me in the chair, being inappropriate and saying, I sure hope they have some chicken back there with all this talking. And the more people talk, he would say, now he knows that person didn't need to say all that. That's who my daddy was. So I'll start there. My daddy loved food. Amen? And I forgot to make this a participatory thing. If I say something that resonates with you, I want you to say what my daddy would say is, I know that's right, girlfriend, and go ahead and snap. Just scream it out. So he loved food. If you know that, just say, I know that's right, girl. Now, some of you all were shocked when I told you the things that he loved, but I'm going to repeat it anyway because I know him best. He did indeed love fried chicken, but it better be good fried chicken, because if it wasn't good fried chicken, he was going to tell you or he was going to tell me. He loved macaroni and cheese. He loved collard greens. He loved a good Southern dessert. Amen? Again, I'm going to say it, but he loved the way his daughter Peaches cooked it. And unfortunately, he would tell a lot of people that was all right, but it didn't taste like my daughter Peaches is cooking. I know that's right. The other thing that my father loved, he loved good music. So I am so appreciative of the songs that you all have brought forth today. Thank you. Can we give them a big clap? But Daddy was very eclectic, and I'm grateful for that because it also created a love for music, not just for his children, but for his grandchildren. He would be so delighted to know the types of music that Isaac, his first grandson, or perhaps second or third, who knows, but my son, Isaac's love of music, and the fact that his son-in-law is a lover of music, and the fact that our home has a bookcase filled with albums and all sorts of genres. He just loved it. He loved good singing, and no, I will not be singing today, so let's go ahead and get that out of your head, even though he would love that in this moment. I know that's right. The other thing that my father loved is he loved family. He loved it. He loved Danielle and Avi through and through. In addition to loving me and my husband, my family, his trips to Georgia, watching his grandchildren graduate, him telling all the tales. How many degrees did my dad have? How many did he make up and how many did he actually have? I know that's right. I'll clap on that one myself. My father loved a good argument. If there was a fight, he was going to be in the midst of it one way or the other. And I can only think, as I told someone today, I talk to my daddy often, very often. I cannot tell you the number of times that I say, oh, I got to call. Cannot call him. And that's not a sad thing. I still have the conversation with him. You understand what I mean? But even in, and I don't want to be political because I am the least political person, but I am a right is right and wrong is wrong gal. And I can only imagine the conversations that my father would want to have right now. I can only imagine my father, once again, organizing somebody's march right now. I can only imagine my daddy wanting to, somebody better wheel me down to that White House because I got some things to say, whether somebody was listening or not. And of course, that gives me great joy. The other thing that my father loved, and this is going to sound so bad, but it's truth, and you all know it. He loved it to be about him. Amen. Excuse me, Ashe. And so I know he is sitting somewhere. Danielle, I haven't seen a ladybug in a minute, but I know it's coming. But I know that somewhere he is saying, come on, keep it going. The only thing that's missing from today is that it's just way too serious for him. Amen? So what I am going to ask is, since yesterday was his birthday, it was, and ain't nobody saying happy birthday to my daddy yet. So please, since the program has been a little bit long, let's stand up if you can. And we're going to sing happy birthday, but we're going to try to do the Stevie Wonder version because he would have it no other way. And if you don't know it, good luck. Just turn to your neighbor. You got it? Let's get some Stevie Wonder. You ready? Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Here we go. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Let's do it again. Come on, happy. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Thank y'all for indulging me with that. The only other thing that I would say that my daddy loved, and I know it beyond a shadow of a doubt, my daddy loved me. And so, I know that's right. Thank you. But what I will say is, I love my daddy. So thank you to all who went through great depths in making sure that his memory was honored. Thank you for the great things that have been said and things yet to be said. Thank you all for loving him. Ashe.
Okay, y'all. You know this is gone way longer than we thought. Okay, so I'm editing my talk in my head, right? Because I was brought up Baptist, so I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm not going to do what I was brought up to do. I'm going to do what's appropriate. So that means if I am editing my remarks in this outfit, are we clear? We're going to have a brief time of community sharing. And I mean it's going to be brief, because I'm hungry. And I love y'all. But y'all not going to kill me in here. Not in honor of this one. Amen? Amen. So we're going to have Sue Silber, co-parent, probably knows stuff about Billy that can't go in the book, in the documentary. So do y'all. And then we'll go into community sharing. And this is your clue. I'm going to sit right there. And we're not going to bother the musician. But when I stand, that means I love you and there's more. Both of those. And then we'll go to the next one. I'm thinking about 3, maybe 4 people. Okay? And here's the ministry part of this. This ain't the last time y'all gonna do this. Peaches is talking to him all the time. If something comes to you, if you run across flyers and things, Avi's already asked for your help to make the archives a success. Some of y'all need to be talking about your own archives. I am only 3 years old, and I have an archive. In 1979, I was only 3 years old, and I wasn't old enough to do all this stuff. So that's where we can continue this. Love you. Come on.
I promise you, this is going to be half of what I wrote. I really am cutting it back. I'm not going to tell you about the march. That's how I met Billy. I was volunteering like crazy. I think I fell asleep before he did. I'm going to talk about the personal as political. One day, I asked Billy if he knew anyone who might want children. I had been trying to have children as a lesbian for 10 years, maybe 20 years. I had thought about how to phrase this. I was sure it would not be Billy himself because he already had 3 children, including Peaches, and from his prior marriage, but his face lit up with excitement. Maybe his partner, Chris, would be willing. Chris did some research on me and my partner and Dana and decided to consider the idea, which is quite amazing given our own backgrounds. And the 4 of us explored having a child together. Finally, we reached an agreement. My partner and I had very strong, loving bonds with our fathers, and we wanted our children to know their fathers, even though we as lesbians would have custody. Ultimately, Chris arrived on Bastille Day, 1982, with sperm and a rose. You have style, Chris. Danielle is in the back there laughing. She was born April 3rd, 1983. Avi followed May 19th, 1988. By the way, May 19th is quite a day. I'll tell you more when we're eating food. Throughout Billy's life, he was an avid reader. He loved every type of music and was committed to education, not orthodoxy. He shared the exuberance for his life in all its rainbow colors. I love the expression that I didn't know what it meant till I knew Billy. Nothing human is alien to me. For the last 20 years of his life, however, Billy suffered back problems, 6 back surgeries, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and at the end was confined to a wheelchair. But his spirit was indomitable. That was a hard word to pronounce when I have a dry mouth. My wish is that the next generation continue on this path of activism, resistance, and the belief we can change the world. Thank you.
Who would like to share first from the brief comments that we're having? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow. Okay, 7. Okay. Because it's going to be so short. It's going to be so short. Or I'll turn Pentecostal. I saw a number of people pointing at a, yeah, come on up. And then we'll go to this side, and we'll go back and forth.
Good afternoon. Whew, when Peaches said,
her father was the life of any and every party. That hit me in my spirit. Did it hit any of you in your spirit too? All right. So the very first party where I learned that to be true was about my sophomore year at Howard University, circa 2007. I was invited by Earl Folks in Sterling, Washington to my very first DC Black Pride event. And there was a circle of elders gathered in the backyard of somebody's house, nice house, and he was telling stories. And I've always been one of those young people that just had to sit at my elders' knees, hear all the stories. I wanted to know everything, all the tea, past, present, and what you were thinking about for the future. And Abilly taught it to me. He sat there and told me the stories about the founding of the National Coalition of Black Gays and Lesbians. And important to the trajectory of my life, he also told the story of the founding of Lambda Student Alliance, the very first LGBT group at any historically Black college or university campus in the country. It also was founded in 1979. And on its shoulders sat what became Oshala, Cascade, Blagosa, and what is now known as Cascade at Howard, the longest continuously going over these past many decades LGBT student group at any HBCU. What he shared with me didn't end there. He talked about the fact that the Third World Conference was held at the Harambee House, which was at Howard. It's where the bookstore is now, right? He shared and educated me about DC Black Pride being founded across from Howard. And so I tend to get a lot of credit as the first openly gay person who served on Howard's Board of Trustees for creating the Lavender Report, which detailed LGBT history at Howard. But all the knowledge poured into that doc came from Abilly. And it didn't end there. He shared names of his co-conspirators, the folks who worked with him to move so much of this through, which led me down additional conversations with my elders to learn more about our history. That report that was commissioned by the president's office at Howard inspired a reception that now raises money for LGBT students at Howard in their research on LGBT people, Black LGBTQ plus people. That conversation with Abilly also led to an annual, an amendment that was voted into the Student Association's constitution, which requires Howard University to do a study of its Black LGBTQ students to improve its services and to replicate updating the history of the university and its treatment of its LGBTQ plus students. I thought it important to bring this up today because he was a tree planter. He made a lot of magical things happen. But as his co-parent just shared, there's also a sharing across the generations that Abilly was very intentional about. He planted a lot of seeds. He watered a lot of seeds. And as a result, I imagine that my story and everything that had followed from that conversation, a DC Black Pride almost 20 years ago, is not the only conversation that has yielded other trees and grown forests in the work of our movements. I currently serve as the Director of Public Policy and Programs at the National Black Justice Collective, NBJC, the nation's premier civil rights organization for Black LGBTQ+ and same-gender loving people. And you all have heard much already about the early works. I won't revisit it. The documentary is amazing. I had a chance to watch it in the car on my way here as the program was going on. But the work of NBJC would not be possible, would not be a thought if it wasn't for the leadership that Abilly provided and so many others, Gil, Darlene, so many other names that were shared in building up the National Coalition. So I want to thank him and everyone that helped to build the movement that is continuing to grow, from Black Prides to religious organizations to direct mutual aid programs, all that exists because of communities that began and continued their flourishing in 1978, 1979, under that leadership. So I know there are others who want to speak, but just wanted to point towards the many ways in which he's continued, his advocacy and effort has continued to grow and prosper through so many of the younger generations and the generations to come.
Side? Oh, okay. And I see you, and I see you. That's 3, and we have a microphone over there.
My name is Tim Wilson. I'm representing the National Association of Black and White Men Together. I served 3 terms as national co-chair, and Abilly S.Jones Hennin was my first co-chair. And Billy found support in our organization and was active for decades, really, and it was an important part of his life, so we wanted to lift that up today, too. Billy was one of those who challenged our organization on many fronts. That wouldn't surprise anyone here, but especially on bisexuality and transgender and non-conforming. And I remember, I think it must have been our '84 convention in Atlanta, where he did a workshop on gender nonconformity, and it was the first time I ever wore a woman's wig. So, you know, he was a mentor to me. I mean, he was only just shy of 7 years older, but he had 20 more years of activist experience. I was a newbie in that arena, so he was a very, very important mentor in my life. Also, just in later years, he talked so much about family. I thought, how do you keep up with all? He's going to graduations and weddings and everything, and kids and grandkids, and I think even great-grandkids. It's like, how does he keep up? But he was so dedicated to supporting family, so I honor that. One of our current NABWMT co-chairs asked me to read this press release, and in keeping with Duncan's directive, I'm cutting at least a third of it. Billy was our second NABWMT Black co-chair from 1983 to '84 and was passionate about our organization for over 40 years. Billy pushed boundaries and effected change by having a national conversation and pushing boundaries so all could be seen, recognized, and loved. Billy broke barriers so that we wouldn't live in shame. His heroic efforts included actively participating in demonstrations and rallies and writing articles. He spoke often and reverently through numerous interviews and speeches. Billy devoted his life over several decades by taking on countless leadership roles with the Black, people of color, and LGBTQ movements. His lasting commitment was as co-founder of the first national African American gay and lesbian advocacy group called the National Coalition of Black Gays. He worked in his professional and personal life to support women's issues and rights. He educated and pushed public officials to act on equitable health care, housing, and employment. He battled so that we would have the right to be open in our relationships and our rights to marriage. Abilly S.Jones Hennin's legacy lives through us, and he will continue to inspire future generations. Thank you.
Is it on? Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Heidi Case. I considered Abilly my best friend. I knew I wasn't necessarily his best friend. He has so many, and that was another way that he was so inclusive. He didn't pick that. He loved us all as if we were all his best friends. That was my experience. And the joy, and you know, joy that makes you cry. My experience today of the life, the empowerment, the energy of Abilly. I am so grateful you gave me this opportunity to share in it again. I miss him. I have a Chris of 40 years, and of course, plus, and so did he. We were favorites to call each other about our Chris's and what they'd done now. I miss that. And I know people use words and they mean different things to different people. I feel called to speak out about the concept of eating cake. In my life, and in religions of every single ilk across millennia, wanting cake and eating too was code to intimidate and shame gay people into denying our voice, our truth, and our body. And namaste to you, Peaches, completely. Because for me, this is Abilly's life. Avi, you said it in different ways. Abilly's life was ensuring that every single person who wanted a seat at the table when cake was being served had access to it. An equitable, fair, healthy, whatever words, I'm not good at all that. That is how I saw him. And the evolving together, I was a little bit of his mentor into the disability world, then aging, we got more inclusive about all those groups, but that's Abilly. Cake for everybody. Thank you.
Hello. I am Robert Michael Van Zant. I've lived in this community now over 50 years. I just want to quickly talk about how things don't happen in the vacuum. What I'm going to say, a lot of it has already been said by the first person who came up here. In the late 70s, I was a graduate student at Howard University, and someone told me, they had to meet at the Harambe House, and someone told me, said, you're a little bit older than the people who are trying to do this new organization, Lambda Student Alliance. And so I went, as a graduate student, I went to the meetings, and Chai Hughes, and Anthony Bias, who became the chairperson, and I became the secretary-treasurer of Lambda Student Alliance. And Billy Jones started coming to the meetings, and he was one of the three people who was really helpful to us. Billy Jones helped us with the political stuff, the moving about the campuses and stuff. Dr. James Tenney helped us with that. Making sure we had a meeting, a place to meet. Charles Sutton helped us with that. And so we were able to have our meetings and stuff. I have a picture here. I don't know whether it's still on here or not, but there was a picture here of me and Chai Hughes at a meeting in 1980. And Chai, we got beat up. We got beat up and our lives were threatened. They used the code of Hammurabi. If your hand offends thee, chop it off. And went through the whole thing, and we were a little upset. And then there was Billy Jones, who he calmed our nerves down and helped us to get the lawyers we needed, because we had already got all the signatures we needed. And he helped us to get the lawyers we needed. The lawyers was the lawyers that were using at Georgetown. And so Chai and I went over there and talked to them. And then they had a meeting with the school. And we stood out in front of Crampton Auditorium in 81, early 81, started in front of Crampton Auditorium. And the lawyers came out and said, it's done. And so, and a few days later, I received the final copy of the charter through the mail, signed charter through the mail. And so we then came AIDS and all this stuff, and I got involved with the church and stuff that James City started, and life went on. Then about 35 years later, I was tired of all that stuff I had accumulated all of my house. And so I gave all the Letters to the Line stuff, along with Faith Temple stuff and some other stuff I had. I gave it all to the Washingtoniana Library. And so that's where it is, in case you want to know anything about Letters to the Alliance. The people who came, and signed in, everything. Ron Simmons never signed in. He came anyway. He never signed in because he was going to become a great professor at Howard University. And so, so that's basically what happened. 35 years later, after I'd given all the stuff to Letters to the Alliance stuff to the library, I looked out at it. They called me to come up and say something, and I looked out into the audience, and there was Billy Jones, Billy Jones. And 35 years later. And so it's so wonderful having known him and having had his support. Thank you.
We're not. We're not asking anymore.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir. Duty. Hey, Billy, I'm reporting for duty, boo. We all are. We're still here in the flow of what you said, all of these lives, movements, people, families, families in families, families to yet be created. In this moment, you made us family. Wherever you were creating change. Whatever you did, you showed love in action, in activism. And this is the point. This is the point. You see, Abilly S.Jones was a phenomenal person, not news to the group gathered here. Here gathered over many years, decades, but we would not be here gathered and appreciating our community, excuse my mask, appreciating the community we are, the power we have, and the journey we have yet to go, but how long we've come without Abilly S. Jones in each of our lives, in our children's lives, in our next steps, in our ages to come, how many ever days that might be or might not be, in this third age that many of us are in. There are so many people who have articulated it so beautifully. Mr. Sutton, I give it all to you, Gil Gerald, for trying to teach people about the structure of the momentous thing he did by landing upon and gathering all of us to the National Coalition of Black Lesbians and Gays when it was NCBG. And he had the foresight to put the L before the G, to prioritize the lesbian presence in this movement, the Black lesbian presence in this movement. There is so much more I can say, but it's already been said and will be said. Thank you very much for the time.
How can someone follow Michelle Parkinson? I don't know, but thank you. My name is Todd Clark. I'm a filmmaker here in Washington, D.C. I've been here 30 years. There's a couple of ways that Abilly S.Jones Hennin impacted my life. And I want to speak to what I see when I look out here. This is the village of Abilly S.Jones. The village of Abilly S.Jones, this family, this community, and it's only a small part. So this is the iceberg of the village, if I can stretch my metaphors into metaphors into metaphors. So today I've been having a both-and moment. Both feeling the grief and the sorrow and the pain of this loss, and the joy of celebrating this inspiring, courageous, passionate, loving person that everyone has spoke to. So I'm going to re-identify the meaning of Abilly S.Jones Hennin. And that is this. Every time you hear that name, I want you to think inspire, encourage, take action. So when we look at what's happening in our life today and the destruction, the intentional destruction of justice and environment and health, the rule of law, think an Abilly S.Jones Hennin moment. How am I going to be inspired? How am I going to be encouraged? And how will I act and take action? It's easy. Look at what the stories have been about today, because they are available to all of us to continue the work and continue the action. Years ago, I lived at 601 Q Street when it was just one house. Then it became 2 houses, and then it became 3 houses. And Chris and Billy welcomed me as family, and were pissed off when I left that family and moved on to do some other things in my life. But I've been in D.C. long enough to know that the individuals that everyone is here today truly loved Abilly S.Jones Hennin, because he did love you. He loved life. And he was that special individual, that special combination of, here's an idea, to, here's the idea we're going to do. To years later saying, that was the idea we did. Now what? So I want to leave this space without yelling and screaming, but I can't help it because I'm revved up. I feel more inspired than sad today. I feel more celebratory today. I feel more possibility today. I feel hopeful today because this village of Abilly S.Jones will keep the work going. And the people watching this live stream a year, 2 years, 10 years from now will go, you know, I want to Google that guy again. Whatever the tubes of machines of internets will be called then, I want to find out who was Abilly S.Jones Hennin, because I think maybe it impacts my life today in 2095. So celebrate Abilly S.Jones, the village, because that's you. Amen.
They're going to sing one song, y'all. Don't get nervous. Spirit's in charge. I think that's what we had planned, right? Thank you.
Give honor to the spirit of Abilly and all the work that was done and will continue on. In the name of all the ancestors, the ones who stepped off the slave ships, kissed the ground, and willed us to be here. Ashe. Amen.
Body or in spirit.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that us forever in the path we pray. Bless our feet, straight from the places, our God, where we met thee. Bless our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Let us march on till victory is won. Victory is won.
Will the fellow ministers join me? My call to action is that I hope you just listened, and that you listened in a way that you heard not just from your ears, because Homeboy already preached, and so did Peaches. That's right, girlfriend. But I hope you heard from your hearts, which are broken. Because unfortunately, we haven't just come to celebrate Billy, but all the other names that were with Billy, and friends, and lovers, and folks who were like moms and dads when moms and dads couldn't or wouldn't show up. And so folks in this room, like Tim, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. You did have hair back then, and I was nice back then. I think you should have been able to get something today. I know I did. I could go on and on about from Gil and Abilly, the work that grew in Atlanta, because you know we think we're a little bit better than DC. That's a whole nother service, ain't it? I'm standing here in the care, love, mentorship, parenthood of men like Billy, who ushered me through the worst parts of that other epidemic. And when I started, I was only 3 years old. Yeah, I don't give numbers. It's rude, Gil. And so we sit in love and in strength that you got today. And I hope the next time I'm able to come to DC and be honored by this fabulous family. Thank you so much, Chris. I didn't get to meet Chris until he was caring for Billy, and my admiration for him it was amazing. It's easy to love somebody who's young and pretty. And Billy still had Billy in there, but I'd never seen him like that. And at the reception, I'll tell you about the day he tore up our dinner table, because he was getting to know this beautiful man who was sitting there. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. Anything that you've done for the family, they appreciate it. And they need even more now, because now the memorials are going to be longer out. And remember Avi and his project, and my homework project for you to go home and go in the basement and in the attic and in that back shed, and heaven forbid that storage thing that you pay monthly for. And get that stuff out of there. There are people getting PhDs who need to know about Billy and you and what you did. And the only way they can do that is if you give it to an archive or a library or something. I think that's what Billy would want, and to underline his name. Thank you so much for letting me come, for letting me limit a bunch of people from DC in their speaking. Whew. And these ministers here, y'all, they have treated me like family. I was disinvited to a funeral of a couple I married by a minister in Florida. So I know what I'm talking about. These folks said, Duncan, whatever you need to do. And they've been so sweet, and they're going to let us eat. So right now, we're going to close.
Amen, y'all. We have a charge to keep. We have a charge to go from this place and take action. We have a charge to go and eat and share something and share a story. So I encourage each of you to share a story. Share what's on your heart. Share the love. Share the hope. Share what you're going to do moving forward from this place. Amen? Amen.
Amen. And this was about Abilly today. And it's so much more. It's so much more. Take in this moment because we're going to need it. We're going to need this desperately. We're going to need each other. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's coming, but we need to come back to this moment and these songs that we may rise up as a people of justice and live the values that we've heard expressed so clearly today. So go as a people and a movement.
May the food that we eat nourish your intentions, your goodwill. Oh my God, I just saw somebody and I remember who they are. Anyway, may that same energy fuel the work that you must do. And remember, it starts at home. It starts with the people who love you there. And if they don't, then you put together your own that'll love you. Because we're going to need that. Yeah. And if y'all can clear out the White House of the trash that's there, I'd appreciate it. But
it's hard not to be emotional. It's hard not to be emotional. It was 46 years and now 47 of having experienced an amazing spirit. And being together with all of you today makes me realize that his spirit is so much still alive, and that it is so important for us to merge with that spirit and face the realities we're now facing that are probably more horrible than anything that we've experienced in the past. And in that spirit, I would like to encourage everyone to help Billy give thanks to some of the institutions that he helped develop, but that also supported him and created the space to do so many of the things that he did. And among the three most important institutions for him were this church, MCCDC, the Black and White Men Together Association, and the Unitarian Church in Atlanta. And if you would like more names for donations, just go ahead and contact me, and I'll give you many more. But thank you so much for coming and keeping his spirit alive. I also want to give very special thanks to everyone who supported us in making this possible. In particular, this amazing course. Our children, Peaches, Danielle, Avi, and all the rest of them, I can't remember their names right now. But all of them. And all of us who have been sort of children and finally adults dealing with the realities we have to face today. Thank you.
However you leave this place, leave knowing you're loved. And in this very moment, you're not alone. You're surrounded by love and care and a tremendous strength. Go safely, and may God be with you. Amen.